Well, 2024 will definitely go down as a year that happened. In that year, we were treated to some of the worst films to ever hit the screen, and not in a direct-to-DVD way. These were films that had a significant amount of hype to them, only to flop spectacularly on release day. So, what can we, as storytellers, learn from this tragic series of events? Well, for one, they were almost all completely avoidable. Before we get into it, if you love storytelling like I do, then you'll want to hit that like and subscribe button. All we talk about here is the art of storytelling, whether your brand is books, plays, movies, or sitting down at the Dungeons & Dragons table with friends. I'm DC Ferguson, the master of Kung Fu and friendship, and most importantly, the author of the Incursion trilogy, the Dragon's Dream saga, and the Wicked Instruments. If you'd like to check out my author page on Amazon, there's a link in the description below. So what the hell happened, 2024? Why are you like this? A quick scroll through the 50 lowest rated films of 2024 marks a few trends to get us started. One that sticks out right away is that a large number of them aren't new properties at all. Madam Web, Borderlands, Mean Girls, The Strangers Chapter 1, Joker 2, The Crow, Salem's Lot, they're all based off existing properties. I'm not even counting book-to-film adaptations, because that would actually rope in another 3 or 4. Do all these movies have different reasons why they failed? Yes. Do they all have one thing in common that explains why they failed? Also yes. So, Spider-Man is a flagship hero over at Marvel, but Madam Web sucked. In the same year that we get the critically acclaimed Fallout TV series, we got Borderlands. Mean Girls is one of the rare 2000s classics, yet an updated remake went nowhere. The Strangers wasn't even that great a movie to begin with, so I don't know why or who asked for deeper lore on that one. The Joker 2 seemed to actively hate people that enjoyed the incredible first film. The Crow wanted to do a faithful adaptation of the original comic book rather than try to remake the original movie, and somehow didn't do either. I don't really think there are even a lot of Stephen King fans that were clamoring for a remake of Salem's Lot. Not only one of his weaker novels, but also not even that well loved in the vampire subgenre. If you had brought me into the room at any one of these studios while they were getting pitched, I would have passed on all of them just based on the plot. Madam Web is a D-tier sub-character in the Spider-Man comics. There's nothing about her you were ever going to make compelling. Then you were going to throw her into the Sony universe and not the MCU? Forget it. It was doomed to fail. Same story with Kraven, and The Strangers, and The Crow. The fundamental problem here is that the people turning in the scripts in Hollywood are flat out inept. I'm serious at this point. You can say Disney is killing this fandom or that fandom, but the real problem is, who the hell are these writers? How are they turning in scripts this god-awful and continuing to get work? I'm just saying, if I lost my company a lot of money, and all my friends cost all the other studios in town a whole lot of money, I don't think it'd be very long before every business in town wouldn't hire any of us for anything more than a janitorial position. As a storyteller, you need to know two things: the audience you're intending the story for and the story you're trying to tell. That's enough to get you through the first story. When you're working with a sequel or a series, then you have a new responsibility, staying true to what made your previous work great and well received, while telling something new and fresh. This last part is the one thing that all those bombs have in common. There's no understanding, respect, or reverence for what made these stories good to begin with. Instead, you're often hearing commentary from these filmmakers about their vision or their interpretation, or attaching a bad idea and using the phrase, while still being true to the story. Anytime I hear stuff like that, I immediately start walking in the other direction. That kind of thinking gave us this, which was such a flop it took 30 years before we got this. So, first and foremost, if it's your own work that you're giving a sequel, you must understand why and how it resonated with audiences. Why did this work? Why is it good? If you're bringing new life to an old tale, do you understand the original? Are you qualified to say that your finger is on the pulse of what makes it a classic? Most importantly, though, do you have something new to bring to the world of these characters that will set it on the same level? Sometimes it's okay to say lightning won't strike twice and just walk away. It may not be forever. There may come a time where you find yourself excited about a fresh idea that is worthy. Right now, especially in the book world, there is a huge emphasis on creating series. There are a lot of business reasons for that, and unfortunately not a lot of them have anything to do with telling a good story. The short version is, I'm still an indie author, and I refuse to listen to any advice that doesn't serve my stories first, business second. So that's either going to get me a lot of fans someday, or I'll stay at the indie level indefinitely. Only time will tell. Right now, I feel like my gut is being proven right by the sheer number of bombs this year. I feel like audiences are truly starting to tire of corporate formulas and they can't be roped in by $100 million marketing campaigns. Even when the trailer is giving the entire movie away, we feel like we saw all we needed to see and just move on to something else. But DC, what about films this year that were original? Well, guy that talks to your screen, I'm glad you asked. There was plenty of bad storytelling this year to go around. We could start with the top of the heap, or bottom as it were, Megalopolis. The comments section on the trailer is hilarious. There are dozens of people saying the same thing. The trailer tells us nothing about the plot, but neither did the movie. I think that sums it up quite well. This is what happens when films try to be art in the most ham-fisted, jam a square peg in a round hole way possible. Watching this trailer alone should tell you that so much work went into the visuals. But look deeper. We see Art Deco styling mixed with time-bending powers, but also imagery of chariot races that evoke bread and circuses. We see our main character appear to be at the heart of power and industry, while there's a competing subplot of a working man leading an uprising. These are all what I would call marquee narratives, meaning that a time-bending dude in the 1920s is a story all by itself. The modern megacity as an allegory of ancient Rome is a story all by itself. A man at the center of power and his foil walking among the common men is a story all by itself. Combining all of these together in this A24 nonsense imagery of a cloud grabbing the moon, yeah, somebody put too much artsy in their fartsy. There's another really important lesson here, and several movies this year didn't get the memo. Beetlejuice 2, for example, had so many competing subplots that the main antagonist literally never catches up with Beetlejuice until the climax, and then it is immediately resolved with no fight of any kind. There was too much going on. Remember, your story has one through line from beginning to end. It's what you're trying to say. It's your message to the world. Why does this story matter? Here's why. To borrow one of my favorite British phrases, if you're incorporating 11 side stories, or even using more than one of those marquee narratives, you have completely lost the plot. As in, literally. The plot is in there somewhere, but I can't find it. What was Beetlejuice 2 about? I don't know, man. Some stuff happened. There was a guy that tricked the girl, and then he was gone, and then there was this dead girl chasing Beetlejuice, but then she found him, but then he got her. And then there was this guy that wanted to get married, but then they didn't, but then Beetlejuice wanted to, but then he didn't either, and it just kind of ended. I truly can't tell you what the plot of that movie was, and I was there on opening night and have had months to think about it. That has to be one of the more disturbing trends of 2024. There were so many movies that are more easily explained by saying, some stuff happened and then it ended. Think about the Mufasa live-action movie, for example. Is anything going to stop him from becoming the Lion King and giving birth to Simba? No. Will he meet Scar? Yes. Will anything he does stop Scar from turning on him and usurping the throne? No. So, what's going to happen in this movie? Well, a bunch of stuff is going to happen and then it's going to end exactly where you think it's going to end. There's no stakes, nothing will shock you, and your best hope is that they create a CGI character that is so cute, endearing, and memorable that they can make a lot of merchandise based on it. Kind of gives me a gross feeling all over. And that would bring us to our last lesson. I'm going to try so hard to be diplomatic with this one, so bear with me. The movie Damsel released on Netflix earlier this year, and I wanted to give it points for trying to be something original, but one of the more famous critical reviews stated that it girl-powered too close to the sun, and I'm pretty sure that nails it. In 2025, the goal for most writers should be to have the least number of plot holes revealed in pitch meetings, not set a record. Audiences right now really appreciate authenticity, And you can see that in films that are making big money. The actors, the YouTube personalities, and the influencers that they support. Now, again, I'm being diplomatic as I possibly can here. I was a nerd in high school, writing a story about how a nerd writes a computer program that allows him to know exactly where he needs to be to catch a football and leads the team to the state championships is the kind of wish fulfillment fan fiction that makes me cringe like an ice cold bidet. Now, there is a world where a female lead is trapped in a cave with a dragon, meant to be sacrificed to it, and overcomes the odds to survive. We have actually seen that play out countless times in slasher movies in the 80s, with a sole survivor that's most often female. But if you want me to believe that your main character is the next Ellen Ripley or Sarah Connor, then you better make sure she earns it. Saying that if you drop Polly Pocket down a well and she'll pick up a sword and become a dragon slayer is an insult to the intelligence of your audience. It's assigning male warrior tropes to a female princess template as if they're interchangeable. That's not how the real world works. It comes off as a message-ridden, inauthentic mess at best. It reeks of script by committee that Hollywood is so famous for these days, where they're so excited by the idea of a movie like this that they never critically look at the idea of a movie like this. Again, there's a world where the bones of this movie works. It's just not this story that does it. So, what do we learn from that? Give me emotion. Tell me something you have to say, and be authentic about it. The problem with this movie, even more egregious than what I just mentioned, is that after it gets past patting itself on the back for its cultural message, it has no idea what to do with the world it created. Does this girl and the dragon she fought go off into the sunset and rule whatever kingdom they want? Well, no, it seems like they're going to wander Europe and find themselves like some 20-something college kid with a trust fund and completely ignore the fact that she's walking around with a living nuclear bomb. In short, a bunch of stuff happens, and then the movie ends. We don't want to be like that. Your story should always, and I cannot stress this enough, always have a complete plot in mind, start to finish, or you don't have a story. Do you want to become Lost, a series so wound up in its premise and lore that there was literally no way it was ever going to deliver in the end? But the pressure to keep making money from it made it so increasingly ridiculous that by the time it got to a disappointing finale, there weren't even that many people that hung on long enough to care. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be a footnote in TV history for worst series finale ever. That all but guarantees no new fans will ever be born out of my work after I'm gone. So, there you have it. 2024 was definitely a year. Were there good movies? Absolutely. There were quite a few that had me talking, but this isn't a best of list. The real challenge is finding the lesson in the worst of it all. It's like an autopsy, but instead of figuring out what went wrong with these films, we're more interested in avoiding the pitfalls in our own work. Also, seriously, Hollywood writers are trash almost all the way across the board. I can't stress that enough. It breaks my heart as such a longtime lover of cinema. There are few places on earth that make me as happy as sitting in a movie theater. But hey, if enough of you are nodding your heads along with me and putting pen to paper, all is not lost. We will write our way out of this mess. Well, that's it for me this time, but don't forget you can check out my author page on Amazon and see what I'm up to. The link is in the comments below. Also, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out quite a great deal. For now, have fun and get crafting.